Hey Nerdy Knitter, Tanya here. It's the end of another month and that means another monthly knitting roundup. So grab a drink, get in your knitting, and let's settle in for a good chat. It's been a month since my last video. I like to take some time off in the summer just to relax, and I had a lot of time to knit. So I've got a pile of finished objects here to show you. A couple of announcements first before we jump right into the podcast. First of all, the Twist Festival, I taught at that a couple of weeks ago. It's not too far from me here in Quebec, and I try to go every year, and it's a great festival. I actually have a pile of fiber to show you towards the end of things that I bought. It's one of those places I only take cash because it would be too easy to overspend. So I can only spend until my cash runs out. And I spent all but like a handful of change. And I bought lots of great fiber, even some like unwashed fiber, so I can try like scouring that and see if I like that process before I invest in like, a whole bag of fleece or something. I got a little Ziploc bag or two instead. But I did want to say hello to a few people I met there, Victoria and Melissa, and there was a couple, I cannot remember your names, but we talked about Stephen West and cruising, and I just wanted to say hello. If you happen to be watching and we talked for a few minutes at the festival, then I just want to say hi to you here too. It was so nice to meet you. It was really nice to meet people who watch the videos and chat for a few minutes in person, and it was just lovely to meet all of you. So thanks for coming over and saying hello to me at that event. And 2 classes coming up in the fall. Well, very soon, virtual Vogue knitting is coming up in a few weeks, and I'm teaching 2 classes, creating cables and knitting shawls on the bias. And they have lots of great classes there. One of the great features, if you're a teacher, is they let you take classes with other teachers as well. So I've signed up for a few classes and I'm looking forward to teaching, but I just want to tell you about that event because it's a great way to get like a lot of different teachers and classes without having to travel anywhere. You can just, sit at home in your PJs with your knitting and watch the classes when you want to. If you can't be there live, then I believe you have replay available for a certain amount of time as well. So I just want to mention that. And the other event is one that I'm doing. I'm doing a swatch to sweater workshop for knitting drop shoulder sweaters from the hem up to the neckline and the sleeves and everything in between, but a bottom up drop shoulder sweater. Now this is for people who follow patterns, but they would love to explore like taking their own gauge and turning that into a sweater. So basically you're going to swatch, we're going to take some measurements, we're going to like make our own personal schematics and combine those 2 things to knit a personalized sweater. And you can do whatever you want when it comes to stitch patterns, cables or lace or whatever you want to do. You're going to swatch it, get your measurements. I'm doing mine fairly simple. It's just going to be striped 2 different colors and then stranded with mohair as well. Because I'm planning to release a tutorial on knitting like a beginner top bottom up drop shoulder sweater. So I'm going to knit that and show you how I go through the whole process of making a swatch, grading the pattern for my size, making a schematic for one size. And then we can also touch on grading a pattern because then you have to like figure out all your sizes if you're going to release the pattern. But the real goal of the class is just to help you like break away from having to use a knitting pattern and then just use your own body, your own measurements, and your swatch and a schematic to create a personal sweater. And we'll walk through that whole process. So if you're interested in that, that's going to be opening up in the next month or so. So there is a waiting list available. You can join that, and those will be the people who find out first about that event. And last of all, there are a couple of new pattern releases. The latest issue of Cast On just came out, and I had an article, and did I have a book review? I think I had a book review too. Yes, I did, on Barbara Abbey's Knitting Lace. I love to get books and then review them. That's a nice perk, is to get paid to read knitting books. But then I also had an article about beanies and toques. So I had 2 patterns to go along with that. One that is knit from the cuff to the top in like a sock yarn held with the mohair. So it's sort of like that fuzzy texture, and it's a 3x3 rib with some lace in there. And then the other one is knit from the top down using lifted increases and kind of a wheeled spoke crown, and then finishing with a garter stitch and a little bit of like traveling stitch motif in there. So those patterns are available now through Cast On along with the accompanying article. So I'll have a link for that down below, as well as everything else we're discussing today. And before I forget, the yarns for these hats as well. These are both knit in Sweet Georgia yarn. So this one is the BFL and Silk DK in Wisteria. And this one is her Tough Love Sock and Silk Mist held together, both of those in Crushed Berry. So one more thing before we get to all of the works in progress, and that is the monthly recap. I shoot a little video, so we'll rewind and watch that. I recorded it when I recorded the last podcast episode in July. And then I just like grab my phone and do a little recording of what I have, like projects on the needles and things I'd like to finish. And then I kind of make a few plans about what I'd like to do. And then we'll get into what I've finished and what's still on my needles, and we can see what I actually accomplished compared to what I planned to finish. So let's go watch that monthly recap now. A big pile of projects here. I didn't realize I had so many things on the needles right now. So I've got this cowl with using handspun yarn. This is sort of my travel on the go, something to knit in the car project. And I was hoping to finish it this month and I didn't. No big deal really. I'll just keep plugging away at it as I'm on the road during the week or whatever. So, but I'm getting down there with yarn, so I imagine I should have this done by the end of the month, I would think. And then that'll be packed away for Christmas for my husband. So yeah, we'll have the cowl finished, hopefully. Another small one skein project is this Canaan Hood. And I'm almost finished with this. I finished the hood. I have finished one side of the lace or the scarf part. And I'm on the last side of the scarf. So I've got this much yarn left. So I think this is another one that I'll probably easily finish up this month. So I've got 3 garments on the needles right now. First is this shrug, which I wanted to have done for summer and it's not done yet. But I have finished knitting the actual body, which is just basically a big rectangle. That's finished. I just have to sew it together to create the sleeves and then do the finishing. So that's another thing. Definitely should be able to finish that. So I have it for the rest of the summer at least. So 2 garments, I'm not going to pull them all out. So this one is the Gullane Tank. I finished like the whole shoulder shaping down to the underarm basically. I even stopped and I did the whole neckline, so that's all done. Now it's just a matter of knitting the body. I'm not going to make any plans to finish this, as it is part of a knit along that I'm doing in my membership group. So I think I have till the end of September to finish for that. So I will plug away, maybe try to get either the back or the front finished, but I am done to the underarm point. You can see right there, it's where I finished casting on stitches. Just have the body left to do, front and back, and then sew it up and finish the sleeve edging. But maybe try to just get half of that done, so maybe just the back part. We'll see if I can get that done over the next month. And then my last garment is the Calm Night Cami. This one also I have finished to the underarm, so this might be one I just take on the road with me, because at this point it's just plain stockinette, a little bit of like something going on at the underarm, I think, but I'm just like joined at the underarm, so I just have a lot of body knitting to do. And this one's done in the round, so it's even more sort of mindless. There's no back and forth in rows. But I did want to have this done for summer. Obviously it's not done, but I think maybe if I really focus on this one, I could get it finished by the end of the month and get a little bit of wear out of it before summer's over. Then I've got this Steeked Cowl I'm working on. This is the first sample. I'm actually doing 2 different samples. I'm all done up to like the top part. I'm doing like a folded hem. I've got to do the folded hem here and then cut the steek and pick up and do the button band part there. That's all that's left. Definitely should be able to finish that. Probably do that this week. And my last project is my crochet project. So I don't really know if I have plans specifically for this, but I have to do 8 of this first block. I've only got 1 finished. I'm on my second one right now. So I think I might take this. We're traveling this month. So I might take this one on the road with me. I like something small and just like kind of mindless, and this is pretty mindless. So maybe I'll hopefully have these 8 blocks done at least by the end of the month. So for off the needles, the very first thing is the Calm Night Cami. I'm wearing it here. This has been sitting and drying and blocking for the last couple of days. And I'll put a little video here of me wearing it. I'll step back so you can see the whole thing. I was running low on yarn. I still have a bit more, but I figured I would go, I didn't quite have enough to do like a full, like hip length. And I didn't want to end it in an awkward spot. So I decided to end it a little sooner and do sort of a cropped style that I can wear over summer dresses. And I'm wearing it with a summer dress right now. It's getting chilly though. I can feel fall coming. but it's really nice. I like the fabric. I did make a few changes. This is the first time I've used Lindy chain, and I really like it. I don't love this color on me. I was hoping it would be more, hair there. It would be more of a like a bright yellow. It's more of a toned down kind of a mustard yellow, but it's all right. I like it. I like the fabric. I will probably be using Lindy chain again. It is a lot of knitting because it's fingering weight yarn, and for a top, especially when it's bigger, that's a lot of knitting. But I'm really pleased with how it came out. And so the pattern is knit from the top down. You start in the back. You've got some like short row, a little bit of short row shaping for your the shoulder straps. You've got the back, and then you do the fronts, and of course you're doing them separately because you've got the V-neck. Then you can join and do the fronts and the backs until you're at the underarm, and then everything joined in the round and knit down to the body. As far as modifications, and then the edging is like a double knit edging, which is why I wanted to do it, because I really liked the finishing details in her pattern, and I really enjoyed them. The pattern was easy. It's the first time I've knit one of her patterns. I enjoyed it, easy to follow. The steps were very simple, like her instructions were clear. Modifications, I did shorten it up. Like I like when I have like a sleeveless top to have the underarm fairly close to my own underarm. I don't like my bra showing underneath, and the underarm I felt for me was a little too deep, so I took out about an inch just to raise it up a little bit higher. So so I had to like sort of figure that out, because I was taking an inch out of the back, an inch out of like the neckline as well to raise the whole thing up. And I'm glad I took the inch out. I don't think I'd want this any lower than it is. I'm wearing a dress underneath it, but I don't think I would want it lower. So that worked out just fine. I think my gauge was fairly spot on too, so I don't think I had any issues with that. And then along the bottom, she just had, the original pattern had, I think, a knit one, purl one, rib hem. I decided to do a folded hem instead. So I'm really pleased with that. I just think it suits because everything is sort of stockinette, these double knit bands here. Everything is very simple stockinette. So I didn't want to add some ribbing at the bottom. I felt like that was kind of just throwing it off a little bit for me personally. So I just did a plain folded hem at the bottom. And I know an issue with folded hems, especially as the circumference gets larger, is that they can still flip to the right side, so you end up with this weird flip. So, but I had just been sitting down, and I've been like going through my knitting library, like taking a book to bed with me every night, and reading a little bit and making notes of things that like strike me that I might have missed before, because I've read all these books before. But I was sitting there with Elizabeth Zimmerman's Knitting Without Tears, and there was a part where she talked about a folded hem. And she mentioned, how the trick of people using like a smaller needle size. And I can't remember if she said like she couldn't be bothered to go find another needle. She was already working with the one she wanted for the sweater. So what she decided to do was work like the part that's folded under, like on 10% fewer stitches. And I thought, oh, that's a really nice idea. I was too lazy to go grab another needle as well when I was getting to the point where I wanted to do the folded hem. So you do like the first part of the hem, the side you're going to see. Then you do your purl row if you want to like do the folded edge. And then you knit around or so. I think I might have done 2 because it is fingering weight. So I didn't want it like super close. And then I just did like knit 8, knit 2 together all the way around. I had some odd stitch count left at the end or whatever, but it was all stockinette, so it didn't really matter at that point. And then, a couple more rounds to finish the folded hem. And then I left the stitches live. I didn't bind them off. And then I kind of whip stitched them to the inside. And I have not had an issue. I've been wearing it today. I haven't had an issue with it flipping up at all. So I think that, and it's also, I'm working on another project where I'm doing a folded picot hem, and I am noticing that it does have kind of a tendency to flip. So I think that might be my go-to thing now. Instead of, you can try using a smaller needle size because it does compress it, but I like this idea of just, decreasing about 10%. And that seems to control it as well. So Elizabeth Zimmerman tip there. If you like your folded hems, but you're concerned about them flipping out, reduce the stitch count by 10%, which, is basically a knit 8, knit 2 together, or like that's kind of the basic math, I suppose. And that will give you like a folded hem that won't flip. And it seems to be working well for this top. And I'm going to be doing it again on another project to test it out again. But I think that theory worked really well, and I really like the folded hem. I think it was probably a good idea to use the live stitches so there is enough like movement, and I was afraid if I bound it off and then sewed it, it would be like too firm on the edge, and I wanted it a little more loose and light. But I think it worked out well. The next thing off my needles is the Scarborough Shrug. I'm not going to put it on right now, but it's all finished, all washed, and all done. So this was another very simple knit. This one is basically a rectangle in this lace pattern. And then you like sew the two sides together to make a sleeve, and then finish off the edging with a little bit of garter stitch, and then around the opening with a little bit of garter stitch. So just a little shrug that you can, you know, wear over your arms, like if you have those little summer dresses or whatever, and you just want to cover up bra straps and things. So really fun knit, it wasn't difficult. Like the pattern, the stitch pattern it was really fun actually. I really liked it. You'd have to kind of pay attention to what's going on because there's a lot going on. Stitch counts changing, but it was really fun, interesting pattern. It's very simple design though. It's basically a rectangle and you just kind of sew and finish. The yarn for this one, I dyed this one myself. So this was Capretta Superwash, which is a blend of 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere and 10% nylon. So I wanted something that I could wear with some of my summer dresses. I've got like a pink and a blue and a white with some orange in it. So I was going for like a blue color. It ended up a little more purple than I intended. I'm pretty sure I talked about this last time. I started out with like, what color? Let me see. I did write it down. Sky blue. I started with some sky blue from Jacquard acid dyes. Then I added just a bit, like 1/8 of a teaspoon of fuchsia, and that seems to have moved it right into more of a purple tone than I originally intended. But I'm pleased with how it came out. I can still smell I don't know if it's the dye I smell. Maybe, I don't know. Does dye have a smell? I feel like it does. But it does have like some pops of like where the fuchsia seemed to settle more than the blue. So it's got little bits of like purple in it, and some spots where I had forgotten to remove the original ties and replace them with cotton ties loosely, so you don't get any sort of like resist where the dye doesn't penetrate. And so I've got some spots that are like a lighter pinkish purple because I forgot to change those. So there's like little spots here and there as well. But I'm not disappointed about that. I think it just adds like a little bit of interest because they're kind of sprinkled throughout, and it just came out really well. And I like this little shrug idea. I got some ideas in my own brain percolating for maybe doing a design, you know, just a rectangle, sew up the sides and finish the seams. But that is another thing off the needles. The next thing I have finished is a neck warmer for my husband. So I used Handspun yarn for this. This is one of my, I've done a couple of like just a scarf and a shawl, like with some of my very first skeins, but this is probably one of the earlier skeins, and it did come out kind of stripy, which I think it came out really nice. So I just used up most of it. I still have a bit left here, but I figured it was tall enough, and I can see spots where, you know, it's like a little thick and nubby and like thinner bits and all of that. This is Malabriogo Nube, which is 100% merino wool, and I had heard other people say that it's like it can be a little hard to spin, and I did find it was like a little matted and felted, but I also read a tip about like using a handheld steamer, and that can help open it up. So I did that, and that seemed to have helped with that. And I also I spent some time like pre-drafting it through a Diz and a hand carder just to like fluff it up. And I think that helped a lot. But I like it still ended up kind of like a stripe. I don't know how I did that, but I didn't do anything on purpose. Let me see, what did I do? I did, this one was, I did a short backward draw for those who are spinners, and then I chain plied it. So this is probably one of the first things that I practiced chain plying. And I like how it came out, and it's very soft, so my husband can use that this winter. I will pack it away for him. I also finished a little Yarnable. I've got the Yarnable subscription, so I'm always looking for one skein knits. This is the Canaan Hood, so it's a hood right here, and then, you know, like a little scarf arm thing, scarf sides to the hood, but it's a little tiny thing. Basically, you know, just wrap it around your head. I was curious to see how the hood was shaped, and I thought it would just be a nice way to use a skein of yarn just to see how that worked. And I feel like I would like it more if I had like 2 skeins, because then I could have made it like a scarf, like a really long scarf, because it is kind of short. But the pattern was great. It was simple. You start here at the top and you work down in one direction, and then you pick up stitches and you work on the other, and then you've got short rows and shaping going on to make the hood, and then you're working each side just in this pretty simple lace. And there's some garter stitch with an I-cord edge. Fairly simple, not super simple, like there's some things to figure out, but pretty straightforward. Pattern was easy to follow. This is a Carol Feller pattern. And the yarn I used is the Yarnable. So last February's Cupid's Bow, I think, is the colorway. And another one skein knit that I finished. This was my supposed to be travel project, but we ended up not traveling because the air conditioning in our car broke and our dog is not well, so we didn't want to leave her. So we ended up just staying home. We didn't go visit family this year after all. So I just worked on this at home. It was going to be my travel project, but it was my sit in the backyard and knit project and keep an eye on my dog. She's old. She's got some growth. She's just old. We'll leave it at that. So we're basically, she's on some pain medication. We're just watching her. We didn't feel comfortable leaving her. So we stayed home. That and the air conditioning. I didn't want to travel on the highway for it's a 9-hour drive with no air conditioning. So between those two things, we decided to stay home. But anyway, this is the Storm Shawl by Joji Locatelli. She's got a good collection of one skein little shawl patterns. So this one's lots of fun. It's a crescent shawl knit top down, garter stitch, short rows, some drop stitches in there, some eyelets in there, just fun little project. Nothing that is too crazy or confusing, and I think this yarn, it was really well suited to this pattern. So this is another Yarnable yarn. This is a September 2024 Appley Ever After. So very pretty. I think it came out really nice. The last thing on my needle is actually still a little damp because I need to go put it back on the blocking board. This is a Steeked Cowl, so it was knit in the round. Folded picot hem at the bottom and at the top, and then I just finished the button band this morning, so I just gave it a good quick soak. And yeah, the button band, or the top and the bottom, they are that folded hem, and it does tend to flip like that. So I've got another color that I'm going to do this cowl in, so I'm going to test reducing the stitch count for the facing side, or the part that's on the wrong side, to see if that will help it to keep it from flipping. But this is a pattern that will be coming out in, I think, October. So the pattern is written. Now I have to get sort of it all in the template and knit the other sample and do photos. But the first one is done. Oh, there's my inside, all the floats. So it's just this very simple 2-color project. You start with the folded hem on the bottom, and then you introduce the other color. And you start working in the round at that point, and you've got a steek right here where the button band is, and then finish with the color work, do the top folded hem, and then reinforce the steek, cut it open, and then add the little button band here. So I've got another couple of skeins of palette, and I will be doing that in 2 other colors anyway. So that pattern will be coming out, but it is still a little damp, so I got to go lay it out. And I think it does sort of have a tendency to flip a bit, so I want to play around with that stitch count on that folded hem and see if I can fix that. So the first project in my current works in progress is the Gullane Tank. I don't think I have done anything since the last video, maybe a couple of rows, but that is probably it. The top part's done. I've even done the neck band and everything, so I could try it on and see how it fits. But I am now working on just knitting down the back, and then I've got to work on knitting down the front. I'm doing them in 2 separate pieces, then I'll sew up the sides and finish the armhole shaping. But yeah, I don't think I've done anything on this since the last episode, so that's all it is at the moment. Got a lot of knitting to do. I did not add any bust darts because it's already larger than me, and personally I don't love bust darts unless it's a more fitted sweater. Then I think it could use some, but I am going to work on the back and then work on the front, and then I'll try it on and see if the front is riding up too much. I can add a short row section down at the bottom just before I do the hem, and that would also do the same as if I had added a bust dart. You're just putting it at the bottom. It's just lengthening the front. So I might do that. I will wait and see, but I would like to get this finished by the end of the month. This is for a knit along I've got a private membership. It's going to be opening up soon too. To the general public. Right now, it's only people who have taken my sweater knitting class. but it will be opening up, and we do a knit along every quarter, and right now our knit along is for English tailored shoulder shaping, which is what this top has. It's this type of shoulder shaping on the back right here, where it's instead of the seam sitting right on top of your shoulder, it's kind of on the back, and it creates this really nice line. So everybody is like choosing their own pattern, and then but they all have this sort of construction. And it's a little difficult to find these patterns because there's no way to search. There's no tag on Ravelry for English tailored shoulder shaping. I put in like a request, so hopefully they'll add that tag, because that would be really nice, because it's becoming a more popular way to knit garments, and I really like the fit and the way it sits on the shoulder. So the yarn for this one is Knit Picks Cotton, so it's a blend of cotton and linen. I think the colorway is called Marina. And I really like that yarn. I've used it for a couple different tops, and they are, well, because I'm also knitting larger sizes, I do find them a bit on the heavy side, and so they're not great for like the hottest days of summer, but I do like them for like spring and fall transition weather before I move to like my wool sweaters. They're really good for that kind of like, you know, sleeveless or short sleeve kind of weather. So I don't love it for the middle of like a hot summer because it is a bit heavier, but I do like them on like sort of the transition ends of the season. Now I've got 2 pairs of gloves going on at the moment. So I had finished a hat with some Yarnable yarn, and I still had like a little bit left. So I've got 2 little balls of yarn. So I thought, you know, I might try to squeeze some fingerless mitts to go with the hat. The hat is right here. So I've talked about this in past episodes. So I figured I would just use up the rest to go along with this. So the color is Yarnable's August 2024 Neon Graffiti. I feel like another, oh no, that was a September, one of the other ones. Anyway, lots of Yarnable yarns I'm trying to use up right now. So I've got the rest of this one. I don't have a pattern for this. I just cast on like, I think 64 stitches, like a sock basically, because that's pretty much what fits my hand. Same size needle that I would use for socks. And then I did a twisted rib along the bottom. And now I'm continuing like a section of twisted rib for sort of the back of the hand, and the rest is going to be in stockinette. So just one little section. I think I'm about ready where I want to start the thumb gusset, because I don't have a ton of yarn. So I'm just, you know, just little fingerless mitts, like just to use this up. But I might, depending on if, because I mean, I feel like I'm running low on yarn. So I did grab some black sock yarn. So I could do like some stripes in there as well if I want to like extend it a little more, which I might, because it is a little on the short side. I do like them a little bit longer, so I might add some stripes in there with that black. But it's just a little simple project, no pattern, just like you would like for a sock. Just figure out how many stitches around, same needles because it's sock yarn, and then knit just a tube and then add a thumb gusset. Not that hard to do. So the other pair of gloves is the Naughty gloves. With some modifications, because my yarn, I'm using Handspun for this. This is Wool of the Andes Roving. I think the color's cranberry. And my daughter wanted like longer gloves, so I was concerned I wouldn't have enough. So I have 200 grams. I have 2 balls of yarn that I've spun up. But so this is the first project where I've intentionally tried to spin yarn for a project. So it's a 3-ply, and I wanted it to be a little firmer for gloves. But it's a little thicker than like a fingering. It's fingering in some spots, leaning into sport in others. So I reduced the stitch count. I can't remember by how much, maybe 8 stitches, and went up a needle size because my yarn's thicker than I would call like a sock or fingering weight yarn. So I went up, I think I'm on a US 2. And the yarn, yeah, is sort of between like a fingering and a sport, depending on which section I was checking. Because yeah, it's hand spun, and I'm not perfect. Even just looking at it here, I can see between these 2 strands. I don't think it's going to show up on there, like the difference in thickness. But it's a very simple like 2x2 rib pattern. So I've got that going on, knitting them 2 at a time. I just started the cable, like there's this big cable that goes on the back of the hand. So I'm working on that now, and then yeah, just keep finishing it up. My stitch count is different, so after I finish the cable and I start the thumb gusset, I'm probably gonna like ignore the glove part of the pattern. I think I've got the Ann Budd Handy Book of Patterns. I think there's gloves in there, so I could see if like if any of them match my stitch count and see if I can kind of figure out how many stitches per finger. It's been a while since I've knit gloves. But the bottom part is, you know, it's just ribbing in the round, and then I thumb gusset. I can figure out where to place that myself then after that. But I'm using the pattern basically for the cable, and then I will probably go off it from there. But the cable is really nice and pretty. So these are coming along nicely. It's nice to have a hand spun project on the go. The next thing is a market bag. Now, I have this yarn, this Peyton's Hemster. It's discontinued in this lime green color. I don't know why I bought so much of it. I did end up making like a tank top, kind of very similar to this one. It is on the heavy side, so I don't wear it a ton, but I was thinking about pulling it out and reusing the yarn for another top. And then I pulled it out and I looked at it. I'm like, I didn't want to bother. I do wear it. And the thought of like figuring out where the seams are and cutting all and opening and unraveling was like, no, I can't be bothered. So I've got like odds and ends of some of these skeins that I had started in another like open mesh cardigan. Didn't have enough because I had been planning to rip out that other top I had knit for something a little more light. But then by the time I had finished like the back, I was working on the front and then realized I did not want to like cut that open and reuse it. So I didn't have enough to finish that. But I did figure I want something light and airy, and then I don't have a ton. I don't have enough for like a garment anyway. So a market bag. That's what we were doing here. Just pretty simple. It started here. And you change needle sizes a couple times. So you get like a really firm edge and it gets looser and looser. And then like a giant needle size to get this really cool open lace, which I really like the lace on this. It's very pretty. And then I'm just going to continue this for, I think, 20 repeats of the lace, and then you repeat the garter, and then you fold it together, whip stitch the sides, add a strap. So pretty easy. So I think I probably have plenty here for that, and that'll finally use up the rest of this Peyton's Hemster yarn. And then I'll have a little market bag. I like market bags because they don't take up much room, and I can shove one or two in my purse, you know, if I'm out shopping or whatever. Can't put anything too small in here because there's a lot of holes in this one. But the pattern, pretty simple. It was just written instructions for the lace, so I prefer chart. So I just charted it out for myself, and that I'm just using that and just very quickly get through 4 rows because it's not a ton of stitches, and it's on like, I don't know, US 11 needles, so it knits up pretty fast. The last project I've been working on this summer is a crochet project. I have knit 2 Janie Crow blankets. So I've got a lot of yarn left over from those 2 blankets. And I figured I would knit a third, but instead of buying more yarn, I was just going to use up all the yarn I already have and do like a scrap style blanket. So her Indigo Dreams blanket is like quilt blocks kind of. And I like the idea of, instead of like, she's got like, you know, a standard like really nice color palettes. I decided I'm just going to use up all my leftovers and make it more of a scrappy quilt style. So I have been working on that. The first block is just, you know, single crochet stripes, and then the same idea, but rectangles. So I tried to, the colors, I don't love them like this side by side, but I think they'll be more cohesive when they're all like in the blanket, hopefully. And now I'm on to some small granny squares. So there's a granny square, and then these like 2-sided colored granny squares. I think I need like 40 of these, so in groups of 8. So I've got one group of 8. I've got 5 done in my next group of 8, so working on it. Anyway, so those are taking me a while, but I had never done like these granny squares but using two colors like that, so that's pretty fun. But just working on that, using up the scraps of yarn. I'm not sure I'm actually going to have enough to finish the whole blanket. I might have to get like a skein or 2 to like do the edging or whatever, but we'll see. That's not current Tanya's problem. That's future Tanya's problem. Right now, I just want to use up those scraps, but I'm not in a hurry to finish. I'm just, you know, I'm finishing like all of these, and then I weave in all my ends, and they're all done. And now I did my first 8, so I wove in all the ends for those. Now I'm on my second batch of 8, so I still have ends to weave in on that, but I'm trying to like stay ahead that way, like weave in ends, and then when pieces can start getting joined together, I'll start doing that as well. But that one is just whenever I feel like doing a bit of crochet instead, which was quite a bit this summer, because I think my last podcast I was still working on all of the first ones, and now I've finished all of these, and then these, and then all of this one, and now I'm working on another motif. I like to do all of the motifs in order instead of like, you know, mixing and matching, just to, I get the, I guess the, not more tedious, but kind of the boring ones out of the way first, and then I can have fun with like the flowers and stuff like that. So that's it for the projects I've finished and that I've been working on for the last month. I do have some upcoming projects. I'm waiting on some yarn right now. I have another design coming out in the next issue of Cast On, and just a drop shoulder top with some intarsia. Still waiting on the yarn. I hope that's here soon because I would really like to get started on that because I need to get that finished and out the door in a month. And then 2 personal projects, the Funchal Mobius by Kate Davies. It's just a 2-color colorwork cowl that is twisted and then sewn together. I've got the yarn for it. I even cast it on at one point, but then I needed my needles for something else, so I took them out. So I've got to pretty much start that one from scratch, I think. And then the other project is like a tunic length cardigan, the La Manche cardigan by Jennifer Beal. And I have swatched for this. I swatched for this last winter, I think. And now the arms have this stranded colorwork motif, and it's done in the round and then steeked, and then you use that as like your beginning for the rest of the cardigan. So I was checking my gauge, and also I need to, my arms are shorter than all the time. I have to like take out some length in the length of the sleeve. So when the pattern starts that way, I have to kind of figure out how I'm going to remove like a repeat or whatever and make things line up. So I hadn't actually got around to knitting that, but I want to get that back on my needles when I've got a little brain space to think about that. The swatching's all done. I've got my yarn. I'm ready to go. I just need to sort of figure out the sleeve length issue before I can cast on, since that is like the whole start of the pattern, is that that stranded knit section that you do in the round and then steek for the 2 sleeves and then pick up stitches and work from there. So I need to adjust the length of that piece so it will better fit my arm length. But that's what's upcoming. I think that's everything. So that's upcoming anyway, but let's go on to like knitting books and acquisitions. I got a lot of stuff to show this week. I usually don't have a ton, but this week I do. So first is our knitting book. So every month I love to show a book, and I've been going through my stitch pattern collection lately. So the next one on my list to show is the 280 Japanese lace stitches. If you have a lot of like vanilla patterns, you want to add some stitch patterns to, I think probably the Japanese books are some of my favorites. The one thing I will say though is if you like written instructions, these are not the best books for you because everything is charted. Nothing is written out in these books. And their charts have like some notation things you have to pay attention to. Like they will tell you whether the background using a certain stitch it's either reverse stockinette or stockinette. So you have to pay attention to that. But they do have very detailed explanations with like little black line drawings for all of like the special techniques. But this is probably one of my favorite lace books. I've got a couple. This is the Shetland Lace. Magic of Shetland Lace is another favorite, but along with that is this one as well. So it does include some projects too, like patterns. If you are new to Japanese knitting projects, getting something like this and then going to look at the patterns in here is a good way to see. Like I've got some Japanese books that are in Japanese, they're not in English at all. So it's helpful to like understand how they put a pattern together. Like I'm not going to show the whole thing, but so like the whole pattern, very few instructions, then the chart. Like it's like you're supposed to use the chart and the schematic as like pretty much the whole thing for your project. So it's very different than the way other patterns in other countries are written, but I really like it. And they put pictures, the way they organize it is different too. Like all the projects are in the front, the patterns for the projects are in the back. But I love the way they're very concise though. Everything you need is there. They expect you to know stuff and not need a lot of hand holding. And then the stitch patterns themselves are organized into different sections, which is really nice. And then the front and the back also have, like it's important, I think, if you've never read Japanese charts, read the instructions first because it does, oh, right here, it tells you, like the background stitch, it's going to tell you right in the corner, is the background knit or is it purl? They don't fill all the boxes with these little symbols. They just tell you, let me find one here. So like this lace right here, it's telling me right here, the background stitch is the knit symbol. So I know that this background is knit. This one, on the other hand, the background is reverse stockinette. So everything that's a plain box is actually going to be purled on the front. So that is one thing to pay attention to. But yeah, everything is charted out. It's going to have a picture of the swatch. It's going to have the chart. It might have some other little notations underneath or references. Sometimes it will tell you go to page whatever to figure out how to work this particular stitch pattern. So it's divided up into like, this is like little floral patterns, and they've got them all sort of even organized by color. Leaves and things like that, and then linear patterns. Oh, there's the linear patterns. So very well organized. I like how they have everything grouped by color. I like charts, so I find these very useful. Then there's, yep, so here's a, oh, triangle shawl. So here is like, the whole pattern is less than, oh, and another page, the chart's over here. But like the pattern, this is it for the pattern. It's all on one page, not even half a page. So I think that's really cool how they do that. And then the symbols that you'll find in the chart, they've got all of the instructions for them here. Most of them you might be familiar with. There will be some that are special and different, then you'll probably have to look up. But this is a good one to start with if you've been interested in exploring Japanese knitting patterns. I think getting a stitch dictionary and looking at some of the patterns in there can be helpful. I have gone on to buy some Japanese knitting books that are not translated. They're not in English at all. And I use like my phone and Google Translate to like translate what I need to know. But I love the way, I think it's really neat the way they're written. You know, it's a schematic, some very short instructions, and then your chart for your stitch pattern. And that's it. Like they expect you to be able to use that, and people do, obviously. So it's just a different way to write a pattern, and I think it's just really interesting. So I would like to explore some other cultural knitting patterns to compare the difference between like patterns that are written in English, you know, European or North American or whatever. But this is a very good stitch dictionary, especially if you like lace. I would recommend this if you're a lace knitter, or if you like have, you know, what you want to explore adding your own stitch patterns to some basic, you know, a sock or a hat. You got some vanilla patterns you love and you want to add some stitches, then this is a good one to have. So like I said at the beginning, I was at a fiber festival this past month, and I bought quite a bit of fiber. I don't even have all of it here to show you, but I've got some. And I bought fiber and I bought stitch markers. I really liked these. Sometimes it's hard to remember, like if you've got like, you know, increases on each end of a garment or something, which one goes where, like if you have a make one left on one side and a make one right on the other. So I like the idea of having markers on them, or decreases if you have a knit two together here and an SSK here, and you're trying to remember which is which on each end, and marking them out can be really nice. So I bought myself some stitch markers. And I got some braids of fiber. This one, I couldn't resist these bright colors. So this one's called Dream House, and then you can see the name of the yarn dyer, or the fiber dyer right there, 100% merino. No idea I'm going to spin this up. I really would like to protect the colors so they don't all sort of blend together, but no idea. I will have to figure that out, I guess. I just love the colors. And another one I got, this one is not like a full thing, but it's just 100% silk. But I figured I could blend it with something else, so I'm going to plan to do that. I got a couple other skeins or braids as well, and I also got I want to try blending different fibers. Maybe I'll blend the silk with this. I don't know. So this is just alpaca, and this one it came right from the farm, so I know the alpaca's name is Astrid. I think that's really interesting, and it's all like hand carded back, so it's all like carded and ready to go. And then I had like 10 bucks left in my wallet, and there was somebody with some sheep there, and they had like the big trash bags full of fiber where you have to like process it yourself. You have to scour it and do every step of the process. Not sure I'm quite ready to handle all that. So I asked him, like I said, I have $10 left. Can I get a little bit of fiber to try out? And she's like, oh yes, look down here. And you could get a Ziploc bag and stuff it full of like whatever fiber you wanted for $5 each. So I grabbed two. So I got some Shropshire and some Cotswold. I love the curls on this one. I don't know if that's gonna, there we go. So it's dirty and it needs a good washing, but I figured this would be a good way to test if I actually want to do that. I don't know if I do. So I've got to get whatever kind of soap you use to like scour the fleece, and try out that whole process with just this little, you know, this little bag full of each. before I decide. Like if I absolutely hate it, then I'll know, and I will not, you know, spend 50 bucks on some giant bag of fleece that I'm never going to want to wash. You know, test it out on a little bit first. So this is sort of my little test. Sometime I want to get this done. I'm not in a rush. When I feel like it, I've got to like do some research and figure out what I need to do. I think there's like special soaps and things that you have to get for that. But those are the last things I purchased. I got my stitch markers, quite a few different colored braids, and then some alpaca, and yeah, this unwashed fleece that I can test out to see if that's something I want to do in the future. They also got my Nest Fiber subscription this month. So this one is done on Polworth. This is called Pink Forest. Just lovely, lovely colors. Very soft and just really pretty. So I'm getting, yeah, quite a little collection of braids, and I think I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with that usually with yarn because it always feels like I don't know what I'm going to do with all of it, but I like having the different braids because now I can maybe, if I have a collection, mix and match them and pair them up so I might have enough for a larger project. Most of the time I just, you know, spin a single braid and then it's like a cowl or a hat or something, but I think it's nice to have a lot of different colors so I can start like mixing and matching for maybe a big shawl or something like that. So I'm not too concerned about that. But yeah, I think my shopping for fiber, I've been to a couple events over the, like since spring. So probably like online shopping for fiber is good. Okay, the last thing to show is the Yarnable subscription. And I got 2 skeins this month. I got a surprise and I messaged her. I'm like, I think there was an accident. She's like, no, we decided to send like an extra bonus for a few different people who do videos. So I get to show off the whole set. So this is the one that came, this is all your eggs in one basket in plush sock. And then there's the companion one. This is fresh out of Clucks. So these are the 2 colors. I really like them together. I don't know what I'm going to knit with these. So 100 grams and another 50 grams to pair with it. Now, the fun little extras are all chicken themed, and they're so cute. There is this Yarn Chicken Champion keychain, and then a little chicken with some yarn. So cute. That's going on my bag. I've got like one bag that I use to swatch. Let me see. I've got it right here, actually, when I'm like working on small projects or swatching for something. So all of my pins go on there. And I just realized I don't have a Nerdy knitting pin on here. I have them because I've got them out for a giveaway. I should really put one on here, but I don't have one on here yet. And then the last thing is some stitch needle stoppers. Little chickens. Just, this is a great theme. I really love this theme. That's so cute. So that leads us right into our final bit though. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, got everything fixed. Now we can do the giveaway. So the giveaway this month, it was supposed to be a book, but it's not here yet. So that's going to be pushed to November. Tell you more about that when it comes. So I went through, I've got a box of things that I stash away for giveaways, and I figured I'm a little chilly today, and we are kind of, I know it's August, I really want more summer, but part of me is kind of looking forward to like cooler weather. So I thought, let's go all fluffy and fuzzy. So 3 different skeins of yarn from Knit Picks. So a skein of their Wonder Fluff in bulky. This is Sweet Pea Heather. And then a skein of their Fairy Tale Fur, which I think would look really cool, like on the brim of a hat. Anyway, I got thoughts. And then Snuggle Puff, which is another very fluffy yarn. So 3 different skeins of snuggly yarn. So, I mean, they're all, oh, that one's 50 grams. This one's 50 grams. This one's 100 grams. So, goodness, I guess maybe that would be good for like amigurumi or something too. They're all very, very soft. So, some yarn from Knit Picks, all very soft and fluffy yarn. So, you could knit some soft and fluffy things for I'm going to say summer, not summer, winter. And then along with that, a Nerdy Knitting pin, which I need to pull out another one so I can put one on my bag too. And then a little bunny stitch marker from Firefly Notes. And from Yarnable. They're try-on cords, which is barber cord in here. So if you haven't tried that, this is really cool. It's just like a little silicone tubing. You pop the end onto the tip of your needle, slide your project onto it, and then you can try it on. And then some other little things as well that I might throw in there. So anyway, if you want to enter this giveaway, okay, here's the question. What is your favorite Knit Picks yarn? If you've used yarn from Knit Picks, do you have a favorite? If not, that's fine as well, but answer that question, your favorite yarn from Knit Picks, and I'll know that you want to enter the giveaway. And this giveaway is open worldwide. I'm going to close the giveaway next Tuesday, and then I will use a random comment generator to choose one of your comments. And then I will tag you and let you know that you won. So that should pop up in your notifications, whether you have that set to go to your email or just through YouTube. You got to keep it on your notifications to get in touch with me within 48 hours so I can send you your giveaway package. So fine print for the giveaway is this. It's not sponsored by YouTube in any form. This one is sponsored by me. This is my own little giveaway stash, things from that. So just leave a comment to tell me that you want to enter, and then next Tuesday I'm going to be closing the giveaway and choosing somebody to win this prize. It is open worldwide, but if I find that shipping to your location, if you're outside North America, is very cost prohibitive, then I will be sending you a gift card to Wool Warehouse for $50 instead. But hopefully, the shipping's not too nuts, and we will get this sent to our winner. So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And if you are new here, I'm going to put a playlist for the past episodes from this season of the podcast. If you've been around for a while, I will let YouTube recommend a video, so you can click right there, and I'll see you in the next video.